Buenos días. Muchas gracias a todos por acompañarnos en nuestro primer en vivo del año. Es un gusto contar hoy con la participación de Steve Graeber, gerente del Centro de Minería Inteligente, quien nos hablará sobre Revolución Minera, cómo potenciar el sector con inteligencia artificial, y esta sesión se desarrollará en inglés. Asimismo, agradecemos el apoyo de nuestros socios premium de educación, Hammer Polytechnic y la Universidad de Lima. Les recordamos que podrá realizar sus consultas al finalizar la sesión, dejando sus comentarios a través de la red desde el cual se encuentren conectados. Al término de la exposición, abriremos un espacio de preguntas y respuestas y finalmente les informaremos que esta sesión quedará grabada y disponible en nuestro canal de YouTube. Ahora sí, antes de empezar, permítanme presentarles brevemente a nuestro expositor. Steve es gerente del Centro de Minería Inteligente, un centro de acceso de tecnología financiado por el gobierno federal, enfocado en impulsar la adopción de nuevas tecnologías en el sector minero mediante servicios técnicos y acceso a financiamiento. Cuenta con una experiencia en desarrollo de negocios, tras haber trabajado en Ontario Centers of Excellence, OCE, apoyando a pymes y empresas tecnológicas. Además, es colaborador mensual del Canadian Mining Journal y co-conductor del podcast de innovación de Unlikely Innovators, donde destaca historias y tendencias de innovación en distintos sectores. Thank you, Steve. I'm sorry to introduce you in Spanish, but actually we are live, so just for
Yeah.
all the public to know better, I introduce at first place.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Claudia, for that. It's really great to be here. I really enjoyed hearing my introduction in English, or in Spanish, I should say, because I actually could follow along. So there's still hope for me when it comes to learning Spanish more fluently. So thanks for having me.
No, thank you for having this time with us and a lot of information about the mining sector. So we are very interested of that.
Super. So I guess I'll just get my slides up. Is that right?
Yes,
Oh, excellent.
now we
There we
see.
go. Excellent. Again, thank you, Claudia. Also, thank you to Grace and my colleague from Cambrian, Melissa Ayala, who's on here as well. So, thank you all for supporting me in this and for the invite. I really appreciate it. So today I'm going to tell you a few things about the experiences we've had so far in the Canadian context that might be instructive as it pertains to AI in mining. The name of the presentation is Harnessing the AI Opportunity in Mining, and I think it's really that's how we think about it, that there's really an opportunity that has become undeniable in the mining sector, that AI will make the sector safer, more efficient, and more productive, and more environmentally sustainable. So what I'm going to tell you about for the next half hour to 40 minutes is basically a little bit about the Center for Smart Mining. I'm going to talk a little bit about the development timeline as we've seen it over the last 20 years for AI in mining. I'm going to talk a little bit about some barriers to AI adoption that we've been experiencing. I'm going to talk about some habits of effective deployments in mining and what some of the characteristics of those deployments have been. Then I'm going to talk about a few case studies that the Center for Smart Mining has under its belt here at the center. And then I'll finally talk like a little bit about some of the training programs we have at Cambrian that are focused on AI. And then I'll close out just with some Q&A that will be curated by Claudia at the end. So really looking forward to this. A little bit about Cambrian College. It's the largest college in the district of Northern Ontario. So Ontario, I know this might be self-evident to some people, is in central Ontario or in central Canada. We're in the northern part of the province, so about 4 hours north of Toronto by car. And we're the largest college in this geographic area. So the graduates that we produce typically go into the mining sector, and that is sort of coined the term that we're Canada's mining college. So about 80% of all of our trades, technology, and engineering graduates go on to work in the mining sector. They typically work for the mines themselves, but then also for the rich mining technology ecosystem that we have here in Canada. And as of 2019, we've also become home of the Center for Smart Mining, which is a specialized research hub that focuses on new technology development and deployment in the mining sector that I'll talk about on the next slide. So the Center for Smart Mining was officially founded in 2019, as I mentioned. The founding funding came from a program called Technology Access Centers through the federal government. So the federal government invests in strategic technology areas and industries, and one of them that they invested in us is through the adoption of technology in the mining sector. The center really does a few things, but it, at its core, it produces new prototypes to solve unique business challenges. It also provides customized training on the latest equipment and techniques, including AI and emerging technologies. And as I mentioned, the federal government provides us with this seed funding, but about half of our revenue comes from industry as well. So we do have the seed funding from the government, but we do maintain a large portfolio of funds from the industry as well. A little bit about me. So I've been the manager. I was the founding manager of the center in 2019. Before that, I worked about 15 years in tech and startups. In particular, I really cut my teeth, as it were, in mining technology and innovation. And then I also have a background in upskilling and short-term program development. Just along the bottom there, a bit of the journey. So I worked at what was then called OCE, as you heard in the introduction, what is now called OCI, and that's where we did a lot of technology investment. That's where I really got plugged into the AI tech sector in Canada. Then I came to Cambrian College when the center was started, and I just wanted to mention that I do quite a lot of thought leadership in this area because I think it's important for us to tell everyone about the successes of the mining sector, and I do that through really two avenues. The first, as mentioned in the intro, is my podcast that I co-host with my colleague Mike Comito called The Unlikely Innovators. And that's where we actually have a chance to shine light on innovators that are making a difference, not only in the mining sector, but in the Canadian Tech and Innovation Center more broadly. So that's the first vehicle that I try and get the message out there. And then the second one is through the Canadian Mining Journal, where I have the opportunity, and they've trusted me to do this monthly. I write a technology column in the Canadian Mining Journal. And the next one that's going to be coming out for PDAC, the Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada, which I'm sure some listeners will be attending in March. That issue focuses on Ontario mining, and the thing that I'll be talking about is the importance of very specific sales training for the adoption of technology. So I'll talk a bit about that a little bit later. I think what I'm going to talk about now is just a snapshot of where things are right now as we see it. And I should say that these are my opinions based on experience with firms working in this space. It's not necessarily meant to be broadly accepted principles, but this is the trends that we're seeing currently in AI adoption in mining. If anybody attended PDAC in Toronto over the last 2 years, you'd notice an abundance of core scanning technologies. If you see the bottom left picture that I have there for you, that's a company called Geologic AI, and they represent really a whole host of companies that are using high definition scanning and sensing technologies to be able to, predict and get their guesses right more often on core drilling for exploration. So it comes as no surprise that one of the main areas where AI has already started to bear fruit is in core scanning, because it's some of the most important details to get right for shareholder wealth. And it's one of the most important sort of processes that are going to really dictate the rest of the mine life. So it's really not a surprise that we see a lot in core scanning, equally in ore sorting and process optimization around ore sorting. I could think of a company like MindSense from BC that is doing this really well right now, and using AI and computer vision to be able to assess ore grades and to sort that ore. What we also see, everyone said digital twin. That's all I hear. It seems digital twin. But what it really means is really understanding the assets you have at a mine site. And what we're seeing is a lot of historic and new data through predictive maintenance and asset health monitoring to be able to understand when equipment is going to break down, so that there could be savings. So any data that's related to that, that could be fed into an algorithm where predictions can be made, and made with a high accuracy, to be able to cut costs, I think is something that we see often. Also, we see a lot of automation and autonomous equipment. That's sort of the sexiest. When you see large haul trucks like the one on the bottom right, driving around the Côté Gold project here in Northern Ontario, which is where that picture is from, with no driver in it, you could definitely start to feel AI and computer vision and machine learning. You start to really feel it in a tangible way. And then finally, I just wanted to mention AI for ESG, safety and environmental monitoring. I'll have an example a little bit later, but this is another one of those areas where large reams of data are created, and we're starting to see some interesting solutions that are taking those data and really making a contribution to ESG compliance and environmental monitoring. What I'm going to do right now, since my first undergrad was in history, I'm going to give you a little bit of a historical snapshot of at least how AI has been deployed in Canadian mining so far. So I'm going to talk about 10 to 15 years ago, when data capture was really starting to break through. That's liberating data from mine sites, being able to get as much data as possible. Not quite yet make decisions based on that data, but mines knew that they had to start really getting data in the hands of decision makers. And then between 2015 and 2020, that's when analytics and integration started. It's where you started seeing more and more Power BI dashboards at mine sites, and that's where a lot of mines still are. It's you trying to use off-the-shelf predictive analytics, using it for process improvement and optimization. And then really where I see where we are now, which is sort of 2020 to present and beyond, is where we're seeing larger scale AI deployments, not just in pilots, but in full orders. And this is where we're starting to see automated decision making, autonomous equipment, predictive maintenance, ore sorting, as I mentioned before, and process control. So that's, I think, the general timeline. I'm going to just dive in deeply to a couple of these. So in the early era of data capture and digitization, what we were seeing is, this is about 10, 15 years ago, what we were seeing is mines and mining technology companies know that we had to start collecting data. So they started, this is when we saw investments in lots of sensor technology, telemetry on vehicles, especially in the underground space, but also above ground. Advanced networks started to pop up. You saw mines buying their own private LTE networks for the first time, all in an effort to get data out of the places where they're accruing it. Key characteristics of this era, and I should say that there are mining sectors around the world that exist still in each of these eras. This is just how we're seeing it advance. So key characteristics of this era, data trapped in silos, maintenance, operations, and geology would all maintain their own data, and it wouldn't talk to each other. It wouldn't pull from each other's data lakes. Highly inconsistent formats and limited interoperability, as I mentioned. Almost no real-time visibility on data, largely due to communication network disintegration. Data mainly used for reporting, so after events happened, and not for optimization or forward-looking. And from the workforce perspective, we really still relied on insider knowledge, or what they call tribal knowledge, and manual decision-making. So, trying to optimize processes that we at the time had a really good idea of how to do, instead of thinking about where it could go if we had the data. So the industry mindset, it could be summarized as collect the data so we have it, but there was little emphasis on generating insights or automating decisions from those data. Sort of the next era, 2015 to 2020, and I think this is still where many mine sites find themselves, looked at from data to insight, and that whole workflow. So applying analytics to unlock value. About 10 years ago, mines began adopting, as I said, advanced analytics because of connectivity and sensor availability. Technologies that we saw maturing at the time, like as I mentioned, are dashboards like Power BI, some of the Aviva suite, which you got from Pi. All that started to change and really focus on digital integration, statistics modeling and process optimization, and then really trying to feed into predictive maintenance analytics. And then we also did see the sort of rise of what could the potential of machine vision be? If we have cameras more readily in the built environment in mines, how do we glean data from those cameras through machine vision? And I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Key characteristics from this time is data from different sources began to be integrated. We're starting to see some of those silos talk to each other. And then we started to see a lot of companies adopt proof of concept analytics projects. And this is where we saw many consultants got paid on digital transformation strategies and integrated operation centers. We saw mines that never had these before. Locally, Vale started its integrated operations center here in Sudbury, all based on what do we do with data now that we have it. The industry mindset, to sort of summarize, is we have the data now. How can we squeeze more value out of that data and start to make decisions? And I should say, after this period, there was a bit of a lull, and there was a lot of tire kicking, thinking, does AI really work for a mining sector? It's so variable. It's not like a car plant. Can we actually apply more general AI to the mining sector? And I think the answer is starting to become yes, but with caveats around it has to be really purpose driven on really clear process elements. So what I now call the AI deployment era, which is 2020 to present and beyond, now we're starting to see companies try out at using AI to automate complex decisions. So we're seeing that move from advanced data analytics that really can't be called AI or machine learning to true AI deployment. Some of the drivers for this are the maturing of machine learning frameworks, computing and storage costs going down. I want to tie to that one also the willingness for mines to be able to adopt cloud solutions. If I was talking to you 10 years ago, there would be no chance of using a cloud solution. Everything had to be on premises on servers. But now, as cloud computing is being brought into the fold, that's also loosening some of that up, as well as edge computing, of course, and now remote operation centers. So the forms of AI that we're now seeing that is sort of maturing, and some of these are repeat, but now they're starting to become multiple orders and more proven out. Autonomous equipment, smart ore sorting, predictive mine planning. You now see every tool that you've been using for mine planning now has an AI suite that it allows for automated tasks and automated planning. And now we're starting to also see a lot of AI-enabled safety products, as well as some environmental monitoring, in particular around autonomous drones. So some key characteristics of this era, shift from descriptive to predictive, making recommendations or decisions in real time, as close to real time as possible, and actually AI embedded directly into equipment control too. We're starting to see some of that on some of the vehicles as well. So now the industry mindset, and this is not ubiquitous by any means, I wish it was, how do we scale AI across an entire operation? Mines can now view AI not as just an experiment, but also as a strategic enabler for productivity, safety, and sustainability. It just has to be selected for the right processes at the right time. Just a few words about, I think if there's anyone skeptical of this, the market predictions are sort of telling us a story that this is going to continue. So the Precedent Research had a report out last year talking about the global AI mining market. It was currently valued in 2025 around $35.5 billion. It's currently projected to reach $828 billion by 2034. So you could see a significant increase in that market. And tech firms that traditionally haven't serviced the mining market are taking notice of this. They're seeing mining as a potential landing spot for some of their technologies and a place where they can add value. All of this good news that I just told you about in the journey obviously doesn't come without its pitfalls as well. Some of the barriers to adoption that we see, still data quality and those data silos that I mentioned in the first era we talked about. Sensor data is still inconsistent across sites, and this makes AI models trying to adapt AI models from one mine site to another is unreliable. And the predictions that it makes don't hold up necessarily as you change mine sites with different architecture and different structures and different, frankly, operations management. one thing that's near and dear to my heart is workforce skills gaps. So, I know it's easy to use ChatGPT at home to make yourself appear with a funny hat, for example. But operators don't have the training necessary to interpret and maintain AI-driven systems as we see it. So it's fine to get the pilot done, but after the pilot's done, how do we ensure that mine sites do have data scientists or AI engineers or software people that can actually maintain and scale that solution so that they can derive as much benefit out of it as possible? There's still operational and cultural resistance. Supervisors, prefer familiar workflows. What has always worked still rules the day a lot of the time. There's often, especially solutions that don't keep the human in the loop. A lot of folks still hesitate to trust AI recommendations, and for good reason. A lot of artifacts are developed from recommendations or things that don't quite make sense and match reality. So every time that you get a bad prediction, it really hurts the reputation of an AI solution. So we have to make sure that the human is still in the loop and that confirmation of AI recommendations are done so that the training models get better and better. And something that I'll take a bit of deeper dive on because it's something that I'm really interested in is pilot purgatory and scaling difficulties. So often we see, even a very successful pilot at a mine site on a particular technology not make it to getting an order or a recurring order or site-wide adoption or any scaling, just because of some common pitfalls that I'll talk about in a second. So just a quick deeper dive in pilot purgatory. This is one of those things where, you have all the hopes in the world. The solution does really well in its very sort of designated and particular pilot, but then it fails afterwards and you're not sure why. Some of the things that we often recommend to our clients when we're working on AI projects that are going to be living in the wild is to design those pilot programs as low friction as possible, and to work within, to a certain extent, established workflows that mine sites will actually approve. So if you have to deviate too much from established practice, it's not likely to be approved as a pilot. Also, structuring agreements that define success metrics, data sharing, and IP are hugely important. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a deployment really fail afterwards because no one paid attention in the agreements to who owns the data, who owns IP from any optimizations that occur from this. You really want to get those structured agreements done ahead of time and take the time with your proponents at the mining companies to get those in stone. And then the success metrics in particular, so that both sides agree when do we have a successful pilot. And then obviously success factors often are the ones that deal with things like safety, like it fits safety compliance. It doesn't introduce any more risks. As I mentioned, low disruption and a measurable ROI. What problem are we solving, and how much money are we saving or making? So now I'll just talk a little bit about how the Center for Smart Mining can actually help with some of these challenges. So we've been along for the ride through those different areas of deployment. We have a sensor lab, we have a 5G lab that was there when data capture started, and now we have an AI suite that's also built out to help. So we typically help with research and prototyping. So our partnerships are with industry, startups, and we try and help companies be supported through the different AI barriers that they might encounter. And I'll talk about some case studies now that will illustrate some of those. I should just mention that all of our AI efforts right now are funded by the Ontario government through something called the Critical Industrial Technologies Program. It's a funding program that helps accelerate the development of Ontario-based IP holders in critical industries like mining, using what are called critical technologies like AI. So we're working with 60 SMEs over the next 2 years. We've already worked with 45 SMEs that are offering solutions for the mining sector. And the CSM, the Center for Smart Mining, is a core part of each project as a development partner to help these companies accelerate and scale. So I'll just take you through some of the projects that we worked on most recently. You can see at the bottom of each of these, I talk about the technology used. One of the big risks in particularly surface plants and and really any warehouse type operation are vehicle-human interactions. So we worked with a company called Cteria that's out of Southern Ontario to develop an AI-enabled tool to recognize behavior patterns in those forklifts and telehandlers that can lead to near misses or collisions. And what it does is using existing closed circuit TVs within plants, it's able to glean the different driving habits and to make recommendations and real-time interventions with the driver to change driving behaviors before a collision has occurred. So for this, we used computer vision. You could see this was actually a test in one of our labs on the right, where you can actually assign a value to driver habits, whether or not they're acceptable. And we also use an AI agent on the back end that will be able to make predictions and make recommendations about further driver behavior. This is an interesting company that we worked with. I'm sure some of you on the call will know Gedelius or SK Gedelius. This is a Chile-based company. They just opened operations about 5 years ago in Canada. And we're working with them currently on a project that uses autonomous vehicles technology as well as computer vision and IoT. And what it is basically is it's an automation project to help speed up soil sampling for environmental compliance. So typically, workers are sent out to do plots to be able to understand, especially at mine tailings areas, what the soil characteristics are. And what we've done is we've helped them develop something called Scout, which is a robot operated soil sampler. So it goes out there in a grid pattern and it autonomously performs soil sampling. Really exciting project with a company called Geogram. So when we're thinking about the last two examples, those are very tangible. It uses video, it uses computer vision. Those are like sort of in era 2 of deployment, being able to do those kinds of interesting things with tangible assets. What the next two examples really show is where do we go with more general AI in the mining workplace. And what Geogram now has done, also using CCTV, mobile phone data, video capture, is to fix the problem of downtime due to asset location awareness. So especially on cross-shift changeover, it's difficult on mine sites to know where equipment was left, where materials were left, where tools were left. So what Geogram does is they've developed a tool that uses images and videos to identify, track, and maintain a temporal log of where every asset in the mine is and where it's going. So if you see the graphic on the right, you're able to actually search through time of a shift where assets have been and where their most likely location is to be. So this is to really give operational intelligence to folks that are managing crews and to really flex the awareness, the location awareness problem, and try and deliver a much more optimized mining workforce experience. And the tech that's used here again is computer vision, really interesting AI reasoning tech, and even a large language model. So once this is running on a mine site for a few weeks and enough data has accrued, you can actually use a chat GPT-like prompt to be able to query data. So now I can ask, where was my torque wrench number 7 in the last shift, and it will actually give the location. So there's that kind of interaction as well. Finally, a company that we just started working with, Formic AI, they're really trying to make the environmental assessment process easier. And this is an important one because as more mines come online, in particular in Canada, the environmental assessment process is still a large burden, not only for the companies entering into it, but also surrounding Indigenous communities. So Formic has developed a platform that makes this process easier. So EA processes currently are lengthy and document heavy. 2 lawyers founded this company, so they're very familiar with legalese and complex documents. And what they've developed is an industry and discipline specific tuned tool to help make EAs easier. So it uses AI augmented semantic search to be able to make sense of long documents and be able to summarize effectively and quickly. So that's a project that we've just kicked off, but it really shows more tangible deployment of AI that never even hits the mine site. This happens in the background in files and in documentation. So another good example of how AI is being made to make the mining process more streamlined and more optimized. So over the last 45 companies that we worked with, some of the habits of successful AI deployments that we've really leaned into and discovered are the following. So in any technology and in deployment in mining, it's really important to start with a clear problem, not just a technology search. So what problem do you need solved? And does an AI tool work to solve that? So it really needs to have a clear problem. This is not just, we've been hearing a lot about AI, we need to get on the AI bandwagon. It has to be used in very specific instances. As I mentioned before, the use of high quality, well-governed data is at the foundation. Companies that go through the hard process of understanding what it means to have their data well-governed and well-situated really it really pays you back, because AI deployment is much easier when you have your data house in order. We're always big proponents of running small, early, focused pilots that can scale quickly after they're proven some ROI. It's really important to get cross-functional teams involved. So it's not just operations, it's also maintenance, it's IT. If they have a data science area, then it's important to bring them in too. And work together with all those groups from day one. You're always going to have an early champion, but it's really important to bring a number of stakeholders together. And then measure ROI early and often to guide the investment. So you need to be able to show impact early, especially if the mine site is skeptical. And then finally, to commit to continuous iteration and improving models and conditions change. I'm sure that means I have to wrap up soon in Spanish, so I will get to it. Just to mention, we have some serious AI capacity here at the center. I won't go into the details, but we do have a supercomputer provided by Dell and NVIDIA. We also do provide data analytics for mining professionals, which is a new program that sort of helps alleviate one of those barriers to adoption, which is operational readiness and making sure you have the right skills at the mine site. So basically the message is, let's partner. Companies and institutions collaborate on workforce development, technology validation and deployment, as well as applied research projects. Some, but not all of our happy partners are listed here on this slide. You may know a few of them, but we've worked in a number of ways with each of them. And I wanted to just end my remarks by saying I want to see each of you at PDAC. So if you are attending PDAC, you can come to our booth at the Northern Ontario Pavilion. You could come try out our 5G enabled teleoperation system. You can essentially drive a loader in Sudbury from downtown Toronto. So you'll be able to be in that chair you see on the right, and you'll be able to have the joysticks and be operating a vehicle, a loader here at the Cambrian campus. So do come check that out if you have a chance. That's all I have. Many thanks for your time and attention. And I think I'll turn it over back to Claudia if there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Steve, for providing excellent information. Yes, we are now to start with the comments or questions. We have some from Ricardo Barbosa. Is regarding the use of computer visions to detect dangerous behavior patterns. How do we differentiate between negligent behavior or unnecessary adaptation by the worker due to inefficient plant design? You mentioned that I'm concerned that AI may focus only on the active failure rather than the optimizing the interfaces that force such behavior.
Yeah, it's a good question, and he can appreciate that I'm limited on what I can say about that particular example because the IP is owned by Cteria. If he likes, I could make an introduction. He or she, I didn't catch the first name. Is it Ricardo?
Ricardo Barbosa.
Yeah, yes. Okay. If he wants a link to the company, I can make that offer to him. Essentially, what the point of the project that we worked on was identifying typical behaviors that could be considered hazardous. So understanding what those bad habits look like from seeing a number of drivers perform similar tasks, and then being able to map those and understand what can be made as an intervention. So it definitely is looking at sort of negligence, but not necessarily negligence that the operator necessarily knows about, because they haven't been either trained properly, or just by the process of accruing bad habits on the job site. It's meant to be once like a correction method, so be able to say, if a crew is engaging in what could be perceived as dangerous behavior, how do we make an intervention? But I should say that this solution doesn't make any intervention into the brakes or anything like that. It doesn't do any active tracking to stop an event from happening. It's really about informing and intervening on driver behavior. So speed, incorrect turns, those kinds of things. And it really we didn't take into account, at least on plant design, any of the discussions that we had at the early phases of the research we did. But I would love to send Ricardo Citeria's way.
Thank you, Steve. We have a few more questions or comments. Is how can educational institution prepare future professionals for this new era of mining?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good point. So typically, educational institutions are too late for these trends, right? And I think what we've tried to influence at our college through our center and through the R&D that we do is really understanding in a very specific way what skills are going to be needed in the next 5, 10 to 20 years. And it's not enough to just have a general AI program at your school. It needs to be something that's specific, that leads to specific jobs a lot of the time. So when we first started doing this AI work, we didn't have an AI program at the college. We started hiring researchers and using research students from other software disciplines. So we have a game design program, for example. We started using some of those folks, and then from other software development programs, we tried to build it together. Now, what that did show, though, is we tried to demonstrate the need to the college through the number of companies we were working with on AI to justify new program launching. And I'm happy to say that around this time last year, we did start offering a AI graduate certificate. So we now are training folks in particular AI, and also with a slant towards mining, because we're in Sudbury here in Ontario, and mining is an important sector. So my advice would be, show that there is a pipeline of companies that will hire these graduates. That was the effort that we made, and really that's how you start to convince people that we really need to look at this as a sector of importance. And it's not just locally. You have to look around the world. There's going to be jobs in mining and AI everywhere, and you have to think about that.
No, fantastic. It's completely correct. Actually, regarding this question is the next. They mentioned that what new skills will the mining sector require with the incorporation of artificial intelligence?
Yeah. I mean, there's a obviously, I'm just thinking about the resumes of all the students we have graduating here, and what they seem to have a list of programming languages on their resumes that long. I think there are so many solutions out there that are open access. And I think one of the pieces of advice I always give our students is, look at what industry is using, but don't limit that to what you want to learn about. So there are a number of programming languages that are similar to each other to be able to learn those effectively. I think so. There's two sort of thresholds of skills. One that I mentioned earlier is like there's so many data analyst positions starting to crop up at mine sites. And for that, you need to have a background in statistical analysis and data. And I think that's one that's really key. A lot of engineers haven't taken stats since university. So you have to really consider understanding data fundamentally, and then building on that with AI specific tools, and being able to use very specific AI tools, whether they're a GPT platform, whether it's running a computer vision algorithm. There's lots of training resources that are free out there on the internet. But I think it's also coupling that with finding formal training at your local college or university. That'd be my advice.
Yeah, yes, completely. Thank you, Steve. Actually, the next question is always a flow. So maybe if you have some comments regarding all the presentation that you present us, it's will artificial intelligence replace jobs or it will transfer existing roles?
Yeah, gosh, I don't know if I'm the best guy to ask that of, but will it replace jobs? I think certainly it will replace some jobs. I don't want to sugarcoat this. When you're thinking about even that early slide that I shared with autonomous equipment, those are truck drivers, right? Those are jobs that have been around for years. And unfortunately, I don't think we get that job back. A lot of people say, well, you'll get it back because you'll have more technicians that are going to be servicing that piece of equipment. You know, from an autonomous perspective, you'll still have heavy duty equipment mechanics, but I think there will be a reduction in that. But I think what will happen is it might be net negative or net neutral if we start seeing more jobs on the front end of that, so developing the solutions, and on the back end in maintaining those solutions. But it definitely will not be the same people and of the same generation doing those jobs. So there will be a trend towards the shifting uh, job landscape. Having said that, I should tell you that some of the most desirable jobs in Canada and Canadian mining are still what you would imagine: electricians, vehicle operators, and importantly, heavy duty equipment mechanics, because all of these pieces of equipment still either have motors that run or hydraulic hoses that make it run. So those jobs aren't going anywhere. But I think the traditional operator jobs will change because they'll be augmented by AI, or some of them may disappear if they're going to be replaced by AI. But I don't think it'll be
Thank-
a net negative.
Yeah, of course. It's a circle that we need to get in
Yeah.
in regarding how is advanced the technology.
Yeah, and I should say that
Thank
the era 3 that I was focusing on is really we say in English, like, that's really rose-colored glasses. As I mentioned throughout, that's not where every mine site is. So this will not be a change that happens necessarily overnight. So there will be a lot of time
okay.
for workforce transition. But I'll tell you, in Canada alone, we need 191,000 jobs filled in the next 10 years in mining. So there's a lot of jobs available. We don't have enough people. So our what we struggle with is the inverse, trying to find as many people as possible to take those jobs. And I think the number is around 700,000 globally, or
Oh,
maybe more than that. So there's a lot of jobs in the mining sector.
okay, perfect. Perfect data. Actually, if someone is interested to also to study regarding this position, or maybe they have the experience, it's a good time to look at.
That's right.
Thank you very much, Steve, for providing excellent information about the mining sector. Actually, it's according about this time of the year. Actually, we are proximally to the PDAC
Yeah,
convention, so it will be perfect. And before to finish this presentation or this live, could you stay with us a few quick announcements, please?
absolutely. I'll
I
stay
will
right
give
here.
them in Spanish. I'm sorry for that.
I'll understand. Go ahead.
Thank you. Como les comentaba, algunos breves anuncios. Los invitamos a participar en los próximos en vivos que tendremos durante el mes de enero. El miércoles 28 a las 5 de la tarde contaremos con la participación de nuestro socio Roadmap to Canada, quien abordará el tema de inmigración sin sorpresas, mitos, riesgos y nuevas realidades. Una sesión pensada para aclarar dudas sobre los recientes cambios migratorios y cómo estos pueden impactar en tu proceso. El jueves 29 de enero a las 7:30 realizaremos la sesión informativa de nuestros campamentos de verano, dirigido a estudiantes de 13 a 17 años que deseen vivir una experiencia internacional durante esas vacaciones escolares de julio, donde perfeccionarán su inglés y o comenzarán a proyectar su futuro profesional. Para terminar, no olviden de seguirnos en nuestras redes sociales para enterarse de nuestros próximos en vivos y actividades que tenemos. Muchas gracias a todos por acompañarnos el día de hoy con Cambrian Goles. Y thank you, Steve, for all your presentation. Actually, it was a great facts that you mentioned during all your presentation. I don't know if you have some few words before we finish this session.
Yeah, I mean, I thank anyone who's taken the time to read this today, and again, thank you to Claudia, Grace, and my colleague Melissa, who didn't get a chance to talk here because we didn't need her, but she's really been helping us out build relationships in a very important area for us in in South America and Central America. So thank you to her. And if you are at PDAC, do come and check us out. We do have a booth in the Northern Pavilion, as I mentioned, and we'd be happy to talk to you. And then yes, you can use the teleop chair if you want to. Claudia, if you're attending, I'll expect you to jump in the chair.
Yeah, actually I'm not, but the Chamber of Commerce, yes. So
Okay.
we will mention to the Peruvian
Yes.
delegation
Excellent.
to see your pavilion or your stand in order
Awesome.
about this session, as you
Okay.
mentioned.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Steve, Melissa. Thank you to Cambrian College also.
Of course.
See you next session.
Bye
Bye.
bye.